Good morning, everybody. It's John Feliz here from JP Mortgages, doing another podcast. It's the 1st of May today. I've got Fluent Money with me. Thanks for coming in, Fluent Money.
You're welcome.
Nadia Grant, Business Development Manager, and the wonderful James Burton. What a name, James Burton. Here we go. We're talking about all sorts today, so you can get the knowledge of what I do and how I work with these people. Again, thanks for coming in.
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it. So we're talking about first charges, second charges, bridging finance, and development finance. So between the two of you, we'll just touch on first charges to first, please, if you can.
Yeah, so in terms of Fluent, just briefly as an overview, to give you an idea of who we are and what we do. So Fluent are the UK's largest specialist broker. Everything's referral based in terms of the intermediary side. And like you said, what you can refer over to us for is first charges, second charges, and bridging finance.
Great.
Start with first charges, like you said. So the question I get asked a lot from brokers like yourself is, why would you need to refer a first charge over to someone like us when obviously it's something that you do first of all as a living? It's a good question, but from our part it's quite an easy answer, and it's because we are a specialist broker.
You're not the high street.
Yeah, so we do have high street lenders on because we have the the aggregator side of the business, but on the intermediary side, which is ourselves, we don't get too many straightforward cases being referred to us. Naturally,
that's what comes through my door.
Yeah, because naturally you place that yourself. It tends to be cases that are a little bit tricky and problematic.
Such as
Just basically, I mean, I'm sure you've had the case recently yourselves where it's not necessarily a certain criteria. With us being a specialist broker, depending on networks, etc., we sometimes have lenders on panel that you can't go direct to, specialist lenders. So it's not so much the specific criteria, it's more the cases where you're banging your head against the wall. You probably have been doing for a week or so already. You've got a pile that's growing on your desk that needs your attention.
Quite,
and you've been struggling to potentially place this case and you're running out of options. You need to get on with the pile that's growing on your desk. That's kind of the case that you refer to us.
Got you.
So yeah, you're just your more tricky and problematic cases. So yeah, your cases with a bit of adverse in there, different types of incomes, your non-standard construction types, your high-rise flats, your right to buys, that sort of stuff. Where, because there's two types of brokers that personally I deal with. Some brokers will leave no stone unturned and go to absolutely every lender out there and every quirky building society in the land. Whereas some brokers are just that busy they don't have time to do that. So it depends on which type of broker that you are. But yeah, either if you're banging your head against the wall and you just potentially can't place it, or you're running out of options before you tell your client you can't help them, at least go down the route of a packager like ourselves or a master broker.
And what kind of adverse are you looking at?
It just depends. Generally, I mean, what we've seen naturally in terms of, you know, sort of your traits over the last few years, it's your missed payments and stuff like that, purely because of the pandemic. You know, people are struggling, obviously with the cost of living, etc. So it's not as if it's one criteria fits all.
No.
It's more about on the specialist side. It's give us a ring, let us have a look at the case for you. We'll go through the indicative figures and approach the lenders and their BDMs and potentially refer it out to.
Great stuff, thank you.
Yeah, not one specific area. Just.
We'll have a look at anything.
We'll certainly have a look at it, and we're upfront with you and we'll tell you what.
And could you also explain second charge for those people that don't know what a second charge is?
Yeah, so a second charge mortgage is basically just a mortgage product that sits behind your first charge. So again, the question I get asked from mortgage brokers is where and when would I consider a second charge for my client? People tend to steer away from second charges because they don't know the criteria. But I believe that you don't necessarily need to know our criteria. It's more about spotting the opportunity of where and when a second charge is an option for your client. So the easiest way I look at it personally, if you had a client that needs to raise 30, 40, £50,000, your first port of call is that you're going to look at further advance or see if you can remortgage that client. But if it's not best advice to touch their current mortgage product, or you simply cannot place it with a first charge provider for whatever reason, then it's a second charge.
Got you.
So potentially if you're struggling with, adverse, obviously your income multiples, your loan purpose,
Early repayment charges.
ERCs, clients that are tied in with ERCs, that's what we're seeing the most of at the minute,
I was
isn't it?
just going to touch that. What we're seeing at most at the minute is your clients that are tied in for 5 years with ERCs.
You can't get any more money out.
They can't get any more money out. Or like James says, they're on a good rate, or and they don't want to move it at the moment because they've got a unicorn rate of 3 or 2, whatever, which you won't get these days. Then that's when they'll then consider the second charge. So what we're doing, especially for debt consolidation as well, so what we'll do then is we'll do the second charge, pay the debts off, stretch the term so it's more affordable each month. So then if they're two or 3 years in, by the time that deal ends, after having the second charge, you've got a client then that's got more affordability, less credit, and a better credit profile. Then you just remortgage them.
Great stuff. And my clients coming to you from me, do you have sufficient staff to take care, and do you have a big staff at your place?
Yes, we do. So we've got, as we've touched on before, we've got a whole broker team. So we've got an intermediate department in there, 8 BDOs, 9 till 5:30 every day on hand to help with any questions.
And you can cover HMOs, portfolio landlords.
Exactly that.
We can cover all of those, And
great stuff.
We have the different advisors in departments as well, so there's quite a lot of us to
great stuff.
kind of get things going.
And can we talk about bridging finance, please?
Yeah, so again, another area that you can refer over to us for, along with your first and seconds, is bridging and development finance. Whether that's your straightforward bridge, regulated or non-regulated, or your development finance, whether that's ground up, you can refer over to us for cases like that.
No problem at all.
No problem whatsoever.
And I suppose the rate you come up with is based on their criteria.
Exactly that, I mean, obviously there's always a benchmark in terms of where the rates start from. And obviously they can go up to X amount depending on credit, loan to value, whatever it is. But of course, we're always going to be searching for the best rates for that.
And Fluent Money, you do a lot of work with these big concerns, don't you? Supermarket and money supermarket.
Yeah, so like we said, there's two sides to our business. You have the intermediary side, which is obviously ourselves, and then you obviously have the internet-based side, where we would take purchase leads for internet inquiries. So your big comparison websites, your money supermarkets and compared markets, that type of people, Experian and credit experts.
And how quickly can you turn things around for people watching today? From the application coming in, I fill the inquiry form out, send it in. Is your one person take care of it from start to finish, or is it?
Exactly that, so we get asked this quite a lot, because obviously generally when we're speaking to brokers and clients, they want the money now and as soon as possible. But in all honesty, for anyone watching it, it generally comes down to how quick the client can supply us with the documentation.
Right, okay.
Or the broker.
Absolutely.
So we will be working that case when we have the sufficient documentation. There's not a lot that we can do if we don't have that. So as long as the client and the broker are on board in terms of supplying us with the information that we need, we'll be working that case. And like you said, we've got plenty of hands on deck to deal with the volume. So completion time and communication seems to be, it's pretty good with us.
And what about, if we can just very briefly talk about your quirky properties, the properties that are struggle, flying freeholds, and what about your valuers? Who do you use in that department, please?
So in terms of that side of it, it comes down to you can either instruct your own when it comes to sort of like your development and stuff like that, or we can recommend people as well. In terms of your property types, on your development side, as you're aware, we can do obviously your ground up, or we can do the existing stuff. But on your second charges, you get your first charges like your non-standard construction types, where lenders certainly might struggle with certain construction types. But again, when you're looking down the areas of your out of sort of criteria cases, it might just come down to us doing a little bit more digging in the background and going to certain lenders. It's not kind of a one case fits all sort of thing.
Gotcha.
So
but you will
don't rule anything out, is what I'd say.
Right. So people, let's say, have got IVAs or big CCJs for no problem of their own. They're satisfied. They're paid off. You'll have a look.
Yeah, exactly that.
That's great to know.
I mean, in terms of your first charges, obviously it's a little bit more restricted as to what your second charges are. If you want to kind of condense the first and second charge criteria, like I mentioned, don't necessarily need to know it, but the way that I kind of look at it and explain it to brokers is the second charge criteria is kind of the same as the first charge, but just maybe on steroids.
And legal people?
Say that again?
Legal solicitors, who do you use? do they use their own or?
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
If they have their own, they can use their own, or we
Yeah.
can instruct our own from our relationships. Yeah.
That's great. That's good to know. Well, I think you've covered everything. It's really good. Thanks for coming in and talking about Fluent Money, a big organisation who I will use. Can we just very briefly touch on fees? Your fees to the client, are they added